Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Real Wellness Podcast Unfiltered. Today, I'm going to be talking about perfectionism. I'm going to be sharing my journey, my experiences of it, how it affected me and my life, and how I overcame it. And I'll also be sharing with you about how you can start to overcome it. I'm Caroline Douglas. I'm a transformational coach and hypnotherapist, and I'm also a retreat leader. And I am the founder of the Norfolk Wellbeing Community and also the creator of the Harmony Life Wellness Blueprint for wellness and resilience, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So let's get started. So I just want to say, a little bit about perfectionism. Um, you may you may be this may be running in your life. You may be, or you may have experienced it. Um, so perfectionism, it isn't about being your best. It's about not feeling safe unless you're flawless. And I learned how to, I learned that perfectionism, how to be perfect and how to look perfect, ran my life for quite a while, in order to keep safe, in order to be accepted. So perfectionism, is a lie that says if I just get it right, I'll be safe. If I just do it this way, I'll be accepted. I'll be liked. I'll be loved. I'll be enough, which is a whole lot of bullshit. A lot of painful lies that we tell ourselves, that we believe, that we've learned. Does this resonate? So healing is a truth that says, I'm already worthy. I don't have to earn it. If only it was that easy just to believe, and people say, well, just believe you're worthy. Again, that's a lot of bullshit. You just can't believe something. You have to take out the root cause of that limiting belief, which is which is trauma. You have to heal and resolve the root cause of that and then replace it with a new empowering belief and pattern. It's a new way of being and living, and recode your mind and your heart and body and cellular memory to this. So, how does perfectionism, affect you mentally and emotionally? Um, it triggers chronic anxiety and also panic attacks because you're always thinking, well, what if I mess up? What if I get this wrong? And it also accelerates self-criticism. So you're constantly criticizing yourself and you're constantly, so I can't say it, you're constantly trying to control yourself. And it's like there's a belief that's running that, which is a universal belief, which is I'm not good enough unless I get it exactly right. And this can lead to burnout from never feeling done. It also creates procrastination, masked at getting high standards, getting it, doing your best. And how it affects your nervous system and body is it keeps your body in a constant fight or flight loop. It's like you're hyper vigilant. It's like you're on red alert. Does this make sense? Does this resonate? And it increases the cortisol and tension, which is a hormone created by stress, cortisol, because rest feels unsafe because you're on red alert, you're hyper vigilant, and so you just have to, make sure you get things right, you look right, so you're not able to rest and relax. Does this resonate? And it causes sleep disruption, exhaustion, even chronic pain. And it makes your body a battleground instead of a peaceful sanctuary. And in terms of like spiritually and your self-worth, it disconnects you from your intuition, from that inner guidance, your sat nav. And instead, you look externally to perform. for approval, to be accepted. And it definitely blocks joy and play and vulnerability because not perfect equals not safe. It also makes you do anything for love instead of knowing that you are love. So perfectionism is absolutely a wellness issue. It's not just a mindset to tweak. It's a root level, a core level wound that needs tenderness and healing and deep self reconnection. So perfectionism, in terms of like it isn't about high standards. It's about fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And it's rooted in a deep desire to be worthy, to be loved, accepted, and safe. And it's exhausting. So let me just share with you my experience about perfectionism and, where it started, how it started. So when I was a little girl, um, I remember my mum going into hospital. So I was round about 5. I remember going into hospital, and at the time I didn't know what it was for. And then I remember myself and my brother being asked to go to the doctors to see the family doctor with my dad. And he sat us down and he said to us that, you know, that he said, Mummy hasn't been well, she's had a breakdown, and that in order for her to be discharged, to come back home, that we needed to be good, we needed to behave, be on our best behavior. And when he said that, I felt so much fear and I felt this huge pressure. I thought, oh, I must be good. I must be perfect. I must, at the time, it wasn't even a conscious thing. It was just fear. It was like, I must get this right. It was like, if we don't behave, then, I will lose my mum. So that was the meaning that I gave it. And then I remember when she did come home, I tried really hard to behave, and so did my brother. But then, we had arguments as brothers and sisters argue. And then, round about just before I was 5, my mum left. And, at the time, and she did come to visit twice a week, but at the time, I believed and felt that it was my fault, that if only I was perfect, if only I could be perfect and look perfect. And so from then on, I tried really hard to be perfect and to look perfect because that's what I thought my mum wanted. And I thought that would make her come home. So I don't know if that's resonating with you. How that one thing that's said can make you believe that you have to be perfect. And so I was always trying to control myself. I was very controlled as a child by my parents, but perfectionism makes you control yourself. So I was controlling the way I feel, controlling the way I speak, and controlling the way I look. And that just took so much energy and caused me so much stress and gave me such anxiety. That gave me problems in my stomach. I was always had a stomach ache and always had gastric flu. And I had terrible migraines because I was putting so much pressure on myself. Can you relate to that? Do you resonate with that? Are you experiencing that? And then the other thing that, perfectionism did for me was that I spent so long trying to get it right. And that gave me so much stress and frustration that in the end I'd cry because I'd be so upset that I couldn't get it right. I believed it had to look perfect and be perfect. So that also caused procrastination because then I didn't have to spend so long trying to get it right and perfect. But there is no such thing as perfection. But if you learn that as a child, then that runs your life. So that ran my life mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually. So I could never hear my guidance because I was always overriding it by trying to get it right and trying to look right, trying to look perfect. And I would say like perfectionism is it's almost like a disease, really, because it infuses every part, every area of your life. And the other thing it stopped me from really living, stopped me being fully alive. And more importantly, it stopped me being my true authentic self. It stopped me from being free because perfectionism is like invisible chains that are around you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And can cause a lot of pain. And it also causes you to, I mean, it made me always criticize myself and always give myself such a hard time and put pressure on myself. Um, and when perfectionism is running, you know, it stops you from loving yourself. It stops you from loving yourself. It stops you from seeing that that we're created beautifully and wonderfully as precious treasures and masterpieces. But it stops you seeing that. It's almost as if it makes you blind, that you can't really see who you were truly created to be. You can't see who you are. You can't see your gifts, your talents. Um, the other thing, it makes you feel like you're not enough. And it also makes you feel like you're not good enough, and that anything you do is not good enough. So you're constantly stressed and anxious, and so that's what I felt, constantly stressed and anxious. Does that resonate with you? Um, are you feeling this? And are you experiencing this? So perfectionism, when people say, oh, you're a perfectionist, I really didn't like that when someone said I'm a perfectionist. Now, I would say I'm not a perfectionist now, but what I also would say is that if I feel stressed or I feel like there's a deadline or something, perfectionism can just creep in, and it sort of creeps in as if like it masquerades as like, well, just need to get this bit right and then I'll stop. So in terms of creating something, I just need to get this bit right, especially visual things. Um, when, it masquerades by saying like, well, I just need to get this bit right and then I'll stop. The other thing about perfectionism, it just robs you of your time. It robs you, robs you of joy, of play, of vulnerability, and it certainly robs you of freedom. But even if you're aware that you are a perfectionist, you then try hard not to be a perfectionist, which then gives you more stress and wears you out and can make you feel exhausted. Perfectionism for me definitely gave me lots of migraines and stomach issues. And I just never felt good enough. Can you relate to that? Does that resonate? So, what did I do about it? Well, I did try mindset stuff. I tried positive affirmations. I remember I did Louise Hay. I don't know if you heard Louise Hay, Heal Your Life. And I thought, well, if it works for it must work for me. Oh my God, like I had these affirmations written on the mirror everywhere. And they made me cry because like I didn't believe them. So for me, positive affirmations are bullshit. They don't work because what they do is they bring up like fear and anxiety, and it shows you that you don't believe in that. And it shows you that things aren't working. But the most important thing in terms of perfectionism is to heal and resolve the root cause, healing the root cause. Perfectionism is really caused by some kind of trauma. So, as I said earlier, I shared with you the trauma that I experienced. And also, there'd be some kind of like significant event, um, it could even be a happy event where you heard something that your parents said or your caregivers said that made you give it a really strong meaning, a distorted meaning. Now, the other thing, what that does, trauma, is it then makes you unconsciously create a role to play in order to feel safe, accepted, and loved. And so the role that I chose unconsciously was to play the pleaser, the peacemaker, the victim, the rescuer, the savior. Um, and that's what you do. It's like if you've experienced, when you've experienced some kind of trauma in your life, especially as a child, you will unconsciously choose a role, create a role in order for you to play and to feel safe and to feel accepted, which is soul destroying because you're not being yourself. But then again, you don't feel safe to be yourself. Now, the other thing is that when you're playing that role, as you grow up, when you have decisions to make as an adult, if that trauma has not been healed and resolved, then you will make decisions from that place, from that wounded place, from that place of not feeling good enough, not feeling enough, um, you know, that that you don't look that you don't look right, you don't do things right. You'll be making your decisions from that place, that wounded place. And when you make life decisions from that place, it's not in your highest good. It's not a healthy decision you'll make. You make an unhealthy decision. And it's not based on the truth. It's not based on the truth of who you are, who you were created to be. So it's based on lies. And so you're not making a decision in a fully resourced state, of all your wisdom, all your guidance and everything. You're making it from like a wounded place. Does that make sense? And like, do you resonate with that? Because, I definitely did make decisions from that place. Um, so it's really important to, make decisions from that place of truth. So how I healed this was that it was through working on myself. So it was through like therapy. So I've done a lot of work on myself. I've had lots of like counseling, coaching, therapy, healing, all sorts of stuff. And a lot of it didn't work really. I'd love to say it did work, but I think it's because the missing piece was the body, because the body holds the truth, and it's important to embody the new truth, new empowering beliefs, in the body, and to recode the mind and the heart and the body and cellular memory to that. So I healed and resolved it by going back to the root cause and discovering what the truth was, that, I created this meaning, this powerful, distorted meaning as a child that I had to be perfect. And then, had to be perfect, had to look perfect. When really what the truth was that, although I would say what the doctor said was just not good, but like it was just to sort of say, well, you need to really give your mummy peace, give her peace, let her rest, or, help her or whatever it is. But I made that into the meaning that I had to be perfect and look perfect. So I went back because I love the truth. I went back and discovered what the truth was, what my mum really meant. So I went back in like a hypnotherapy session to find out what the truth was. And to also speak my truth, because that's so important, because, trauma is when a significant events happened where you felt, where we felt powerless, powerless to speak, powerless to control that situation, and more importantly, powerless to speak your truth. and to know the truth. And so that's what I did. I spoke my truth, and then that's when it was when it was healed and resolved. And then the next part was to, it's not enough just to heal and resolve something. You have to replace it with a new empowering belief. More importantly, replace it with the truth of who you are, who you were created to be. So I replaced it with a new empowering belief, the truth, and a new program. Because perfectionism, I feel like it's like a disease. It sort of flavors, infuses every part of you and every part of your life. So when you're creating that new empowering belief and pattern and program, it's like a new blueprint to the way you are being in the world, the way you are living, and everything you are doing. So that's what I did. But of course, when you start doing that, when you start to reprogram your mind and your body and cellular memory to the new empowering belief and program, because you've lived in that perfectionistic way, there will be some resistance. So everything that's not in alignment with that truth will come up. And so it's really important to stay committed. So I just want to look at, what is it like? What can you do now to, in terms of perfectionism? So the first thing is that is to really start to get curious, not critical, and start to notice when perfectionism shows up and ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if this isn't perfect? And whose approval am I chasing? And ask yourself, what would good enough look like here? This awareness shifts you from autopilot to empowered choice. Awareness is key. Awareness leads to change, because then, because this program, this pattern, perfectionism, is running an autopilot. So when that pattern is running, what happens is your mind and your body and your cellular memory becomes unconsciously addicted to that way of thinking and feeling and being, experiencing and living your life. And it's also addicted to the hormones that are released. And perfectionism, the step two is about embracing messy action. So perfectionism says don't start unless it's flawless, unless it's perfect, which is a lot of bullshit. But when you think that and believe that, that feels so real. Healing says start messy, start scared, start anyway. It's about practicing, whether that's posting a thing that's not polished, wearing the bold outfit, even if you're nervous, or saying that vulnerable truth, even if your voice shakes. And redefine success. Perfectionism ties success to outcomes. Healing ties success to alignment, being in alignment with the truth and being in balance. Ask yourself, have I honored my values? Am I being real? Did I take a step forward even if it wasn't perfect? And I think the most important thing really is speak to yourself like you love yourself. And ask yourself, would you say that to your best friend or your loved one? Would you say you're only worthy if everything is perfect? No. You'd say you're doing your best. I love your courage. Keep going. So that is the first place you can start. And, you know, perfectionism, as I've said, stops you from really loving yourself and valuing yourself. So the other thing really is is long term, it is about healing and resolving the root cause, because when we don't heal and resolve the root cause, our body triggers that. We're triggered by certain things, which will then activate that unhealthy behavior pattern and program. But you can start to really, be kind and caring and loving to yourself, and notice when you're feeling anxious, or when you're putting pressure on yourself, because that's one of the strong things is that with perfectionism, you're always trying to control yourself and trying to and putting pressure on yourself. So just notice, like, when you're putting pressure on yourself, and asking yourself why you're doing that, and asking yourself, is that the truth? What's that going to do to you by putting pressure on yourself? So it's about, you know, it is about a daily practice of being kind, caring, and loving, with yourself. Um, and just noticing when perfectionism is running. And it is about creating a new empowering belief and behavior pattern. So if this pattern's been running for a long time, then your body would have become unconsciously addicted to that. So it takes round about like a month. It takes about a month, or under a month really, to reprogram to new empowering belief and pattern and program. But our mind always wants to keep us safe. So our mind will say it's not safe. We have to, and it likes to have, to be comfortable. So it likes to be safe, and our mind will say, it likes the same. It doesn't like anything different. Our mind has rules, and it's hardwired to focus on what's not working, what's missing, and what's wrong. So really, it's about keeping like a journal of how when you start in these new things, and noticing. So you have evidence, noticing how you feel when you do something different, when you start to love yourself, and start to see the truth of who you are. But you can't really see the truth of who you are and see the truth really until that pattern is healed and resolved. I'd never recommend to my clients, I'd never say, look, just do some positive affirmations or even some declarations. That's a lot of bullshit, because it's just like you're putting a plaster over it. You need to really get to that truth. If someone says, oh, well, if I say this, but it's held in the body holds the truth, and it's held in your cellular memory. So it is about reprogramming your mind and your heart and body and cellular memory to new empowering way of being and living, a new behavior pattern. But you can start today by becoming aware, and also starting to be kind, gentle, and loving with yourself. So I hope you found this helpful and useful. And if you have, please subscribe and share this podcast with your family and friends. And I'd love for you, if you have any questions or any comments, please let me know. And if you'd like help and support with this, then please contact me. You can book a complimentary breakthrough session, which will be a 15-minute session, and just to discover the truth, because one of my gifts is as a heart truth activator, a heart truth catalyst and activator, because I never received the truth as a child. And one of my gifts is being able to really see and feel and hear the truth. And it's for you to see that that is your truth, to feel that is your truth. And I'd invite you to join the Norfolk Wellbeing Community, where I share more tips and tools and resources and do lives. And it's all about supporting each other, because the foundation of everything is our well-being. Our well-being impacts everything we do, and impacts our emotions. And so it's really important. So I look forward to connecting with you soon, and have a wonderful day.